Hey everyone, Jason here. In this video, we're going to have a quick look at 5 different ways to tie end whipping to a rope. For this demonstration, I'm using some white 3-strand nylon rope as the main rope and some black polyester nylon microcord as the whipping. Before we begin, I'd like to mention that if whipping is too complicated or if you're not entirely interested in putting in the effort to tie whipping, then a constrictor knot or 2 at the end of your rope is often a good starting point to hold your rope strands together. Alternately, some tape wrapped around the end is also a common solution. I'll be using the constrictor knot a fair amount in this video, so if you'd like to see how to tie it with instructions, you can check out my video dedicated to the constrictor knot. Link in the description and at the end of this video. The first whipping that we're going to look at today is the common end whipping. In my opinion, this is one of the easiest types of whipping to learn and to tie. Because I'm showing 5 different ways to tie whipping in this video, I'm going to try to keep the video as short as possible while showing the most important parts of how to tie these knots. I'm also going to create a more detailed video on each of these whipping knots so you can have a closer look if you'd like. I'll add links in the description to each of these dedicated videos. So with the common whipping, I've laid a small bight down on my rope with the tail end and working ends pointing away from the end of my rope. From there, I begin to make wraps around the bight with my microcord back towards the terminal end of the rope and overlapping the bight of cord as I go. With all whipping, it's important that you make your wraps at least as wide as the width of your main rope. 1.5 times the width or more is even better. As you near the end, pass your working end of whipping cord through its loop. Then pull the other tail end, that is, the line running under your wraps. Pull it tight to cinch up and hold the opposite end. If you want, you can pull it slightly below a few of the wraps, but you really don't need to. As long as it's tight, it should hold just fine. From there, you can trim away any extra cord, any messy rope that might be at the end of your main line. And if you're using a synthetic rope, you can melt the end a little bit to tidy it up a bit more. And that's the common end whipping. The next method of whipping that we'll look at is called the West Country whipping knot. To tie the West Country whipping knot, we first want to find the center of our whipping cord. Once we have the center, tie a constrictor knot around the main rope as close to the end as possible while maintaining the proper structure of the 3-strand rope. The constrictor knot will help hold things in place as we continue with the West Country whipping and is also the first knot in the whipping process. Now that we have the entire end tied together, turn the main rope over 180 degrees so that the constrictor knot is now on the bottom of the rope facing away from you. From here, tie a simple half knot, left over right and through the loop. Then cinch it up tight. Again, rotate the main rope 180 degrees. This time, so the original constrictor knot is facing you again. And now tie another half knot, left over right, and then through the loop. Again, cinch it up tight. Continue this process down the section of your rope until you have a series of knots tied around the main rope, and the thickness is at least the same width of your main rope. When you reach your desired length, simply finish the whipping with a reef knot tied at the end. And that's the West Country whipping knot. Spiral whipping, also known as French whipping, is another easy way to prevent a rope from fraying. It's also an attractive option for applying whipping to the end of a rope. To begin, tie a constrictor knot nearer to the end of your main rope. From there, make one full wrap with your whipping cord. I like to wrap over the top of the tail end to help hold everything in place. Pass your working line under the wrap and cinch it up nice and tight. From there, continue the process of wrapping and making a half hitch at each turn. Tighten each half hitch immediately after the previous knot as you work your way down the length of your main rope, and you'll begin to see a spiral pattern appear with your whipping. When you've made enough whipping turns that the length of your whipping is at least the same width of your rope, finish with either a clove hitch or a constrictor knot. And there you have it, the spiral whipping. Number 4 on our list of ways to tie whipping is the sailmaker's whipping. To tie the sailmaker's whipping, we're first going to secure the end with a constrictor knot tied with a spare piece of whipping cord. Then, we open one strand of our main rope and pass the end of our whipping cord through. We want to pass enough cord through and leave a length that extends about twice the length of the area we'll be covering. Next, we open the main rope again to create a space in the next strand and pass our whipping cord through it again. As you pull your whipping cord through, leave a loop that's slightly longer than the end of your main rope, because later you'll need to pass the loop over the end. Now begin to make wraps with the long end of your whipping cord, wrapping towards the end of your main rope. The sailmaker's whipping, in my opinion, produces the most attractive decorative pattern as a whipping knot. When you've created enough wraps that are equal to the width of the main rope, hold the working end down with your thumb and then remove the constrictor knot. You'll need to follow the twist of that strand to find it at the end of the rope. Then cinch it up by pulling the tail end. Pass your tail end up around the same strand at the end of your main rope and tie it to your other tail end using a square knot. Trim away the ends of your whipping cord and the end of your main rope. If you're using a synthetic rope, you can use a lighter to melt the end to help prevent it from fraying. And there you have it, the sailmaker's whipping. The last in our list of whipping knots is the sailor's whipping. Although not difficult to tie, I find this whipping knot to be the most tricky, so I've saved it to last. To begin, I'm going to tie a constrictor's knot with a small piece of whipping cord to hold the end together. Then I lay some whipping cord across the length of the main rope with the tail end towards the end of the main rope. And from there, I begin to wrap around the main cord working towards the end of the main rope, as shown here. When I've created enough wraps that are approximately the same width as the main rope, I then take the opposite end of my whipping cord and lay it down on the main rope, this time with the end pointing away from the end of the main rope. And then I continue with the previous wraps. The sailor's whipping can be a bit tricky because the whipping cord will twist and become a little difficult to manage. When you have another section of whipping, again, equal to the width of your main rope, you can pull on both of the tail ends of whipping cord to cinch it up tight. Remove the constrictor knot, trim away the excess frayed rope, and if you're using synthetic rope, you can melt the end a little to help prevent any fraying. And there you have it, the sailor's whipping.